All right, so the latest diet that people had a question about was the fasting mimicking diet. So basically, it comes from a PhD researcher in California, Berkeley, who is Walter Longo, and the longevity diet is a book he wrote. It is it's pretty cool because they talk a lot about actual studies they've done at the university there and using fasting as a tool to get rid of a lot of conditions, slow down conditions, and slow down the aging process. Most of these are done in mice, might have you, but still, they do have some human trials. And this fasting mimicking diet, essentially what it is about every 6 months, a person would eat somewhere between 11 or 600 and 1100 calories for day one. Then they go down around 600 to 800 calories day 2, 3, 4, 5, and then ramp that back up to a normal dietary strategy. Those calories being made up of vegetables mostly, some legumes, some nuts, and seeds, and some olive oil. You'd also would take a multivitamin and some omega-3 fatty acids during that time period. But it's pretty cool. I mean, the research they've done is definitely pretty awesome, pretty revolutionary. My main thing about it is, in the end, what they're trying to do is get people to eat basically these prefabricated meals that they would sell to during this time frame to get just these exact ratios of different fats, proteins, carbohydrates, and types of fats and stuff. So I'm into real food, and I don't think we need, so the thing would be basically if you can do the vegetables, you do the nuts, you do the olive oil kind of thing during that time frame, great. And the book is called The Longevity Diet, if you want to read up on it big time. But it's got some good stuff in it. Overall, not super impressed. But I don't think for anybody, every 6 months, shutting your calories down, below 1,000 calories for a few days is going to be to your benefit. And what they've shown basically is that if you do this calorie deficit for these 5 days, you can, especially with a kind of overall lower protein intake, you can stimulate an increase in circulating stem cells for this short time period, which allows for regeneration of a lot of tissues, and will enable the body to get rid of some junk cells and junk mitochondria, which is awesome. That can also happen with intermittent fasting. But even more important, I would suggest, is all the other meals that you'll eat I will eat throughout the year, and making those more times than not pretty potent, right? Super nutritionally dense, loaded with the vegetables. It's interesting, some of these blue zones, blue zones are where people live for a long period of time and have great quality of life, like they live over 100 years on a regular basis. Something that is found in many of these is that their vegetable intake is about 35% of their diet, where in America we're like 4 or 5%. And their intake of like chicken is pretty low, whereas our intake is pretty high. They of course eat a lot more fish. We eat a lot less fish, generally speaking. So thinking about that, more so, these Okinawans and stuff, these people that live a really long time, they're not doing fasting mimicking diets using prefabricated meals to induce longevity. They're living to 100 years plus because they're eating real food all the time. In fact, they're eating probably more carbohydrates than most current diets out there would recommend. Lots of purple potatoes, sweet potatoes, and lots of starchy vegetables, including mushrooms as well, fungi. So considering that these groups of people essentially are all kind of doing the same thing, average about 4 servings of eggs a week, almost across the board in these blue zones, I would suggest that before jumping into a fast mimicking diet, I mean, that's fine, no problems, I don't think it's going to hurt you, but we'd be better off making a concerted effort on a regular basis to accumulate health by adding in more and more vegetables, finding ways to get cold water, Alaskan salmon, clean fish items into our diet, and maybe less poultry potentially. I don't have specific research on that, but there is that where these people eat a lot less like super lean meats and tend to eat a little bit more fatty meats, which would we don't know, but that's just what the people in the blue zones do. So that's why I'm bringing it up here. And they tend to live a long time and are very active in that long period. Of course, they are active though. So, they're out in agriculture. They're walking a lot more steps than we are if we're sitting at a computer all day long or driving in a car, an hour to work, an hour back, that kind of thing. So there's tons that goes into that. The other thing to consider is that you could do a fasting mimicking diet, but the main problem for most people that I see is not, in myself as well, is not that a 3-day stretch or a 5-day stretch. It's a everyday stretch. It's the fact that we're addicted to food in the United States of America and many other European countries because it's so prevalent. It's so easy to get our hands on food. So more than this 5-day every 6 months fasting, I would suggest grabbing an accountability partner, journaling the food that's going into your body, or journaling the food you're going to eat ahead of time to enable a sense of accountability so that we can overcome food addictions and create new habits that allow just the automaticness of our being to be at work, which helps us make good decisions. So like I've said before, having the vegetables eye level every time you open the fridge door, getting chips and crackers and cookies and all these kind of things that may be sitting on your counter, either putting them in a cupboard somewhere or potentially completely keeping them out of your home. Novel idea, I know, but extremely powerful and bound to help you, because it helps everybody else, decrease your intake of these refined flours and refined sugars. So like I've talked about so many times, the habits, the accumulating of health, the daily little inputs are going to be far more powerful than one-off fasts. Or, I've had patients do, 19-day, 21-day, these juice fasts and these herbal concoction fasts, and great. Yeah, it seems like life's great. They feel great during them. And then, afterwards, everything's still there. Everything's still as it was. They hop right back into their old habits and just keep rolling. Because it does take a long time to create new habits. So that's where accountability, saying, you know what, I'm going to humble myself and be like, you know what, I don't have control over food. Food definitely is controlling me. It is challenging for me to say no to these things. So you know what, can I get some help over here? Can somebody please push me, ask me, call me out if I'm not doing what I'm saying I want to do or following through on things. Getting that kind of accountability. And I would suggest almost on a daily basis, if you have significant issues with food addiction and you've tried on your own many times to overcome it, and you end up in the same situation. We need accountability. We need somebody there to help us along. Somebody doing it with us would be sweet, right? So finding somebody, got a couple patients of late who've started particular food eating plans and journeys, and they grabbed another person to do it with them. And it's been amazing because this other person can feel all their pains and all the tension that goes into, and the challenge that goes into making new life-giving decisions when it comes to food. And we also, we know pretty much what to eat, right? The majority of us know what to eat. There are, I do run into patients who still are eating, diet food sources and, fat-free stuff because they think that's actually a good thing. But most of us realize that if we eat a lot of vegetables, some fruit, nuts and seeds, grass-fed, low grain-fed meats, and if you can handle beans, great. Whole grains, non-genetically modified, low wheat intake, low or pasteurized, homogenized dairy products, that you're going to do really, really, really good, likely, right? It's just a matter of making that decision over and over again. That's why we need accountability. That's why we need partners in crime when it comes to making awesome food decisions. So, fasting mimicking diet, reasonable. They got some cool studies on it. I'm glad they're doing it. Definitely can be used a lot, especially if you have different like cancers and autoimmune conditions and stuff. I think there's a place for it for sure. But for the general population, myself included, I can't say I do it or have ever recommended it to any patient before, though I've read the book and the longevity diet. More what I would recommend as a kind of a regular ritual would be to say, okay, I'll take one day out of the month and I'll fast 24 hours. And maybe then like just straight water fast. And as a general rule, a couple times a week, I intermittent fast. 16 hours of fasting with 8 hours of eating. And then on a maybe every 6 month basis, I do 48 hours or even 72 hours of water or broth kind of fasting. And that can definitely be powerful. And that also just kind of helps you tell your body, tell the food, hey, I'm in charge of this thing. You're not ruling me anymore, food. But more than anything, I would get an accountability partner. And I would say, you know what, I'm going to be straight up. And maybe I'm going to go to McDonald's right now, but before I go to McDonald's, I'm going to tell this person, hey, I'm about to go to McDonald's. And I'm about to do this. So they can potentially pull you back off that high wall so you don't jump to McDonald's. But so this week, consider it. I would who can be accountable to, who can you help achieve their goals in health, and they likewise to help you achieve your goals. Come together, and that is going to be the most powerful thing, far more than doing these real sciencey fasts every few months. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Please, if you have any questions, put them in the bottom. I'll run through them like we have been and answer them for you. Okay, talk to you guys later.